Welcome to Cat's Home Chat. You're going to want to tune into this episode today if you don't have time to watch the whole thing. Now go back and please share it. We are going to share with you, and I have a master staging professional, Maureen Calamia.
Calamia.
And she is an author, a master staging professional, amongst other things. And she's going to share with us today why Feng Shui is more important than ever today. And if you think Feng Shui is just a woo-woo kind of concept, you're mistaken, sorely mistaken. And she's going to share some tips with us throughout this 30-minute segment, some easy tips on how you can make your space more sacred, more comfortable, more welcoming to you and your guests and family. So without further ado, I want to introduce my wonderful esteemed guest, Maureen Calamia. And Maureen, let's start off with just share a little bit about Maureen, maybe how you got in the business. And I know you and I were chatting, we both come from corporate America, which has its ups and downs, but some good ups that we talked about. How you got in the business, a little bit about Maureen, and then we'll just dive right into the topics.
Sure. Thank you, Kat. It's a pleasure to be here today. And just a little correction, I'm not a professional stager.
Did I say professional stager? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm a certified Feng Shui practitioner.
Feng Shui practitioner. I'm not enough caffeine this morning. Yes, a certified Feng Shui practitioner. And I know that because I'm just going to jump right in here and say she's an author creating luminous spaces. I love that. I wished I would have thought of that luminous for my next book. And I'm about more than halfway through. Wonderful book. And really, Maureen takes Feng Shui and Feng Shui concepts into all kinds of roads, from design to psychology to spirituality, et cetera. So thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So it's I don't have like a really cool story about how I got into Feng Shui. It just kind of like happened. Where I became aware of this school teaching Feng Shui, and I kind of jumped in feet forward without realizing everything that it was. So I guess I have to say that it was just this intuitive pull. Like I had to take this training. And when I was sitting in class the very first day, my mind was blown because it encapsulated everything that I was so passionate about learning. Things like as diverse as astrology, theology.
Yes.
Design, I'm not a big, I've never really been excited to learn about interior design, believe it or not, but architecture. Always had a pull for me. And then, of course, spirituality and astronomy. I mean, there's just so many different layers to Feng Shui. Psychology, of course. So I was really like all in from that very first class. And it
resonated. It sounds like it resonated with you and you have a passion for it.
And not only did it resonate then, but now I just feel my whole body vibrate at a higher level when I talk about this. Because
I get chills when you say that. I was a guest on Edge Radio TV yesterday, and we talked about that whole, it really got into quantum entanglement, quantum physics, and raising your level of vibration. And when you talk about astrology, architecture, inanimate objects have vibrations. Everything here, this has, the architecture has, everything does. And then we get into planetary consciousness and astrology. I'm loving that people, and I'm so blessed and happy to have guests like you and to help share and raise that level of consciousness to where people realize and are aware of that whole connectedness that we really embody. We're not just, we're spiritual beings, in this human body, but everything is interconnected, as quantum entanglement talks about. And I love the feng shui. I'm fascinated with the feng shui and have been for a long time because of the energy fields. And I think many of us, and tell me if you would agree, we have a feng shui ability, like a sense, but we haven't really maybe named it. I'll give you an example. I was showing a property back when I was very active in real estate, and it had a pool, and the pool was pretty close to the breakfast wall. And I didn't know until later when I was studying further that, that's why I felt odd, because it was physically feng shui ability too close.
Yeah.
Can you delve a little deeper of why that is? Why would one feel odd, or
well,
unbalanced?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great intuitive knowing. We feng shui really focuses predominantly on our safety and security. Number one. And it works at a very subconscious level. Our reaction to environments. And like you said, a lot of people, if they saw that house, they might go, yeah, the pool looks a little too close, but it has all these other things, and they wouldn't really go that any deeper. But there's a very real negative connection or negative energy to that pool being too close, and it could.
And why is that? Does it go into safety?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it does is it triggers our subconscious to feel like we are in peril. And we're not able to really fully relax.
So no harmony. Yeah, no harmony going there.
No harmony
relax.
Can be had, right? I mean, there's probably ways to remedy that. Of course, every situation's unique.
Yes.
But without consciously realizing that is having a negative impact on us, know to cure it.
Good. Thank you for answering that. Yeah. That and even as you mentioned, somebody might say, well, the pool's too close, but most people I found, they just feel something. They don't even know how to articulate it at that level. They didn't know that's why it didn't feel right. So
feng shui does provide us, when you learn about even the basics, it provides us a language we aren't used to using in our Western lives. So it definitely provides a language as to why things are a little.
And that's what you're going to help us with today. So I want to dive right into our main topic, and then we have some sub topics to it. But what is your take on why we today need to know about, and why is feng shui so relevant more today than ever?
Yeah, now it's really amazing that I've been saying this for years, but now in 2021, it's even more,
because
accurate. It's a more accurate statement than ever before. So, it's no, we've absolutely, all of us have been in our homes more than ever before. And of course, us non-essential workers who can work from home, now our homes are everything to us. They're a complete sanctuary, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, this is where we're living our lives 24/7. And then, there's people that used to be on the road all the time.
Yes.
Hardly ever lived at home. So their home was just this kind of stopping ground in between trips.
Mm.
And it didn't really matter to them. Oh boy, this past year, it's really mattered.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that other group of very challenged people who are essential workers that had to continue going out and doing everything. Their homes now have been their place of trying to recuperate and to rejuvenate after all the stress of their work has just been compounded more than ever.
Mm.
So, and then of course, we have the unique situations where grown children have moved back home, or other, extended family have grouped together for all sorts of reasons. I just did a consultation where, several extended family members lost their jobs because of COVID. So wound up moving back to the family home. Siblings are now living together, and it's, so our homes have become this space where we really need to learn how to adapt and how to make it more harmonious for the new and perhaps temporary situation. But it's been a temporary situation for a year now.
For a long time, for an absolute long time. So I want to go back, but I want to digress a little bit. I want to go back to some solutions. What are some easy things that folks can do when they are, using spaces for multiple uses, in a less than ideal, more crowded space, multi housing, et cetera. But if you could take us back to why was Feng Shui created, I guess? How did it come about?
Right. So, as we started talking about a little bit at the beginning, Feng Shui, I think the majority of people who are familiar with the term, they think it's more about, it's like the art of placement. It's just like arranging furniture and maybe color and art. It doesn't really go beyond that. But, according to, what we're understanding, how the ancients felt, it was more a way of life. And it was the acknowledgement that the outer environment or the outer world was connected to the inner world. So it is with that Feng Shui practitioners work. That is where we work, because we are looking to help inspire change. But just going back to the ancients, like I said before, they looked at this as, number one, we needed to find places that would be safe to build our villages. So let's look at the land. Let's look at the formation of the land. Is there enough water? Is the soil good for crops? Is there too much wind? Or is there just enough? So, when people think about Feng Shui, they do think about the concept of yin and yang, or yang, however you want to pronounce it. And, those are complementary opposites. And most people, I think, understand that,
yes.
Yin is like the more feminine principle. It's soft, it's yielding, it's quiet, it's muted. Where yang or yang is more masculine, it's bright, it's loud, it's bold colors, it's, so those two, neither one is bad. But what is really desired in a space is that there's a complement between those two. So
balance, yeah.
Yeah. So, going back to looking for the land, they wanted to make sure that there was a right balance of water, not too much, not too little, a right balance of the breezes, not too much, not too little. And, it's almost like the Goldilocks principle. Like,
needs to be just right.
It needs to be just right. And, so they would look for the right places to build. So that's really how Feng Shui started.
And what kind was that in Asia? Was it?
It was China, or maybe 5,000 years ago. We're really unsure. Could even go back longer than that. But it was just, it was the shaman that understood how to read the land, how to read the weather patterns. So that's why I talk about geology. I mean, they understand, they tasted the soil. They would know if there was too acidic, too alkaline, what was appropriate. So there's just so much knowledge and richness going back. And to just say that now it's just kind of like interior design is really a wrong understanding of what.
Oh, sure. And I think there has been a level of consciousness raised, beyond that. I think most people, at least I hope that most people understand that it's energy. It's directing and balancing energy into a harmonious space to make our spaces sacred. We are so, since the Industrial Revolution, I mean, we're just so behind walls and, exposed to EMFs and, we're not connected to the earth, the water, and I'm not going to steal your thunder. So talk about what are the 5 elements? I mentioned earth and water, but tell us a little bit about the 5 elements and how they feed and balance each other.
Yeah, and I just love where you were going with that. So I just want to add a little bit to that. So if you think about 5,000 years ago and they were building their homes, it was, of mud and clay or straw, right, or stone, whatever was locally harvested and what was appropriate for the weather.
Yes.
And so
unlike
right. So now, after this major, industrial revolution and the explosion of house building after World War II, everything is synthetic. I mean, yes, the base of everything is natural materials, but it's so distorted and synthetic. And then our buildings became like sealed because of in the 1970s with the energy crisis, the oil crisis, everything then, lock everything down. So it's super tight. And then came out sick building syndrome and, all these problems that arose because all these chemicals that we brought into our homes and our workspaces were hermetically sealed inside.
Yes. And, and that's still going on today. It wasn't that long ago, 7 years ago, I worked in the building industry, new homes for about a decade. And we espoused, having the tightest, most energy efficient, which is the tightest, and as you say, hermetically sealed home. And although that's lovely for our energy bill, which were just minuscule, not so good for flow, for chi, which is energy for our interior spaces. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then just being able to open windows and air out the home. In so many of areas of the world, it's desired to have either heat or air conditioning on all the time.
And I'm from Houston. Yep,
yeah. I mean, but excuse me. Consider the spring days, like you said, the very few, opening up those windows and letting the breeze to come and clear out the air.
Absolutely. So I hope you all heard that. That's something my husband and I do regularly, is we will consciously open up the windows, that we can, and let fresh air exchange. So that's a tip we've interjected here that you can do today if you're where spring is not too chilly or what have you, and you can just crack it if you want, but help that air circulate to get rid of the stagnant air and bring in movement and fresh air. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right, so I'll go over the 5 elements now.
Yes.
They're a little different than our Western elements, but there's that overlap. So there's wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And according to Chinese cosmology, these 5 elements were birthed out of the yin and the yang. So out of nothing came yin and yang, and then out of yin and yang came the 5 elements. And then out of the 5 elements came 10,000 myriad things, meaning everything in the universe. So these elements are within everything in the natural world. but they're also within us, which is a lot of what my book is about. But so there's a really nice 5-element cycle diagram. It's just a circle. So I always start with wood because the wood element is connected with spring energy. So now in this wood energy just sprouting, it's those beautiful crocuses coming up out of the ground, all that green buds and flowers that are starting to burst through the ground in the atmosphere. So we've got the wood element, and it feeds the fire element. So just imagine throwing logs on a fire, right? So that's that wood feeding the fire. And then fire, when it burns, it burns that wood down and it creates ash. That is what we recognize as soil, or the earth element. So then the earth element, it is mined. You can mine the earth element for the precious metals that are within. So then the metal element is helps when it condensates, it creates water.
So I'm going to stop you right there because that blew me away when I read that in your book. And even my husband, who's very well read and versed on all things cosmic, quantum, etc., I said, did you know that from the rocks and the earth, there's a condensation that creates water? Now, I don't think it doesn't create the seas and those were there, but I had no idea. That was very like an aha.
And, another way to look at it is the metal element, it nourishes our water. Metal in our water, we wouldn't have the nutrients that we need. Water would be flat, but it enlivens our water and it gives us all these wonderful benefits.
So I want to just kind of digress or take a little deeper on that, only because, like we have a distiller and distill our own water. The water's really not drinkable here, and we got tired of, doing the plastic, and that's not good for the earth, not sustainable. But so you said that the metals are good. Should we? Well, I do take trace minerals, so that probably helps.
Minerals are
trace minerals. Okay.
Metals and minerals.
Because I've talked to people who do a metal detox. So metals are not so good for us. Yeah.
Well, there are some metals that aren't good. Absolutely. So I don't want to make it sound like all metal's really great, No, it's the metal. It's some metals that we do need in our body, and the minerals, the salts and other minerals.
All the natural stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so that's interesting how they all, and I did see that chart in your book, how one feeds the other.
Yeah. It's
the other. Yeah.
It's called the Sheng cycle. It's the creative cycle. And then actually the final part of the loop is wood feeds water. So water feeds wood.
Feeds the wood. So it's a complete repetitive.
Closed loop. So every element has an element that creates it. So it keeps this dynamic process going. But there's also another system called the controlling cycle or destructive cycle. I mean, any words along that, there's lots of different names for it. But it is where I'll start with the water element because this is easy to understand. So the water element goes up to fire and puts it out, right? It douses the fire. And it's actually a 5-pointed star in the middle of the circle. So it's a very cool diagram. So water douses fire, and then fire melts metal. So that's the other point coming down. And then metal chops wood, so that controls wood. And then wood breaks through earth, which is what we're experiencing in the last month, at least here in New York, is those sprouts are just busting right through the soil.
Isn't that just amazing?
Their way through the soil. No matter how compact the soil is, it finds its way. Controls earth, and then the earth dams up water, like beavers build a dam. So it contains the water. So in that perfect 5-pointed star, every element now has an element that controls it.
That controls it. Yeah.
So there's this perfect balance in nature. When nature's left to its own, it always finds its balance.
Mm.
And it's a dynamic tension between this beautiful, perfect circle and this 5-pointed star in the center. And
I like that. I like that. Yeah. It's a dynamic tension that is perfect.
creates harmony.
Yeah.
And this is part of traditional Chinese medicine too. It's not just feng shui. It all comes from the same philosophy.
Right. That's awesome. So let me ask you this, Maureen, do you, and maybe I haven't gotten to it in the book yet, but do you purport using the Bagua at all in your studies?
Absolutely. There's lots of tools that we use in feng shui, and the Bagua map is a great tool. It is a way to assess our spaces by just kind of overlaying it onto our floor plan or onto our property at a larger level, and to see what's kind of going on in these different areas. And these 9 boxes, these 9 different areas represent pretty much every area of our life, from career to health to romance and relationship to wealth and abundance, family, pretty much, I would say everything is covered there. There's an area for anything that you want to enhance or you have a challenge in your life.
So just real briefly, so people who maybe haven't heard of the Bagua, if you could give a 2-sentence, what is that? It's a roadmap that ties to
Okay, so yeah, it's basically this hologram that, like I said, we can lay over a property depending on what school of feng shui you practice. I'll tell it from my perspective, and I do a more modern approach to feng shui. It's you lay it over the front door to a space. So if your home is basically, say, a Cape Cod, which is just a simple rectangle, you lay it over, and you've got the door in the center of the property. So you'll have the career area there, and you can simply lay it over.
Okay, so I understand that, but kind of a higher level, how is the Bagua created, and how is it tied to feng shui? What feng shui elements? Like, did they decide, this is tied to back to the 5 elements? I guess I'm just trying to, or is it astrology based?
It is astrology based, and it actually comes from this folklore of a turtle up out of the Yellow River, and it had these dots on its shell, and it is believed that Fu Xi, who's this mythic character, saw this and recognized it as a pattern of the universe. And created what we look at as the early heaven Bagua, which is something that some practitioners use. It's not used most often, but then years later, there was discovered a different arrangement of those areas, and it's called the later heaven Bagua, which is what people use most often. And
is the later heaven Bagua. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And it's really, let me just say, it's based on the dynamic of change in the universe.
Okay.
It helps us understand how energy shifts, and the 5 elements are layered into this. So they are part of that.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. They're intermingled, and that's what I wanted to make clear to our audience. So one of the things that I've, kind of struggled with when I've kind of played around with the Bagua, feng shui, et cetera, is a couple of things. And first off, being in real estate for many years, oftentimes that would be a consideration, that the lot was facing the wrong way or the door was facing the wrong way. But what I found out is it was complicated because there are different ethnicities Indian to Chinese to others, that it's a different direction. So does that mean they're just using probably maybe one of the later schematics, if you will, or an earlier one?
Well,
why would the door be different?
Okay, so in India, there's a complementary practice called Vastu Shastra. Predates feng shui, from what I understand. And so there are certain directions that are different. I mean, all the directions are the same, but there's certain directions that are better than others, according to that system. But I think one of the really important things to understand is a lot of the kind of rigid guidelines on best directions depends on where you are geographically. And how the winds come in, and if there's a mountain behind you, or it's really unique.
So there's more than one element for
there's
it to
more
be
than one
the
consideration to make.
Yeah.
Every situation is unique, and it's not like a rule like, oh, you must face
cookie cutter. Yeah. And I guess that's where it was confusing for me. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought it was northern exposure. So I'm going to segue and go into some things that we can share with folks that, like I said, the challenge that I've had sometimes is, well, I don't have that. Or, maybe someone has you walk in and the stairway goes, you're looking at the stairway and it goes straight up. That's not good feng shui. Or in my case, I have my bed in the coffin position. That's the only wall that it will fit. So let's just take that one and share with us, your experience on what are a couple of things that somebody could do if the only optimal place for their bed to be. And so for those who don't know, the coffin position is when you open the door to the bedroom, the foot of the bed, you're facing the foot of the bed. Correct? So what is something that people could do if they're stuck with that position of the bed?
Yeah, and some bedrooms, like you said, don't have any other options. Now, it's only coffin position if you walk into your room and you go straight ahead and you hit the foot of your bed.
Right.
That is coffin position. If it's a little bit over, like diagonal, it's fine. It's not. It's fine. It's perfect.
Right. Well, I have a king bed, and when you open the door, if I walked straight, I would. Yeah. Now it is further to the left because my master suite is to the right, but it's a big bedroom. So when I open the door, I'm straight into the bed.
So you walk straight into the bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's plenty of room. I even have a bench, so it's not like I fall into it.
Okay. That's good. So if you're in that position and you have the room, you want to put something between the door and your bed. So you've got a bench.
There we go.
Yeah. Or a trunk. Or is something, a bench is perfect. Or even a footboard. If you really don't have the room.
I have that too. Yeah.
Having a footboard that is that kind of barrier. If a footboard doesn't work for you and you don't have enough room to put something in between, at the very least, one of those multifaceted, clear, spherical crystals. People call them a feng shui crystal, or you could call it a Swarovski crystal, but it doesn't need to be a Swarovski crystal. It's just a leaded crystal that you hang between the door and your bed from the ceiling. And those crystals are wonderful for protection, but also bringing in benevolent energy. So that always works when there's issues of space. Awesome.
So, well, let's talk about the other one, because again, I've run across this, showing lots of homes. What if there's a home that you fall in love with and you want to buy, but it does have, when you walk in, the stairs are right there to go straight up.
Right.
What would one do in that case?
So, at the very least, one of those crystals that hanging there between the front door and the base of the stairs. You could also get one of those chandeliers that have if you know, if it's a
Oh, right. If you've got the space
chandelier,
there.
most chandeliers have one of those crystals. What I just say is you like activate it with intention.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an important thing to just kind of energize it with what you want it to do. So it's protection. You don't want your energy to come in the door and go straight up. Any energy that comes into your home, you want it to nurture the public space of your home.
And thank you for describing that, because it was a little remiss. People may not realize why isn't that good? And you described it very well. So we want the energy to dissipate into the space.
Right. If it just goes up, the public spaces in your home are not getting nurtured, and you could actually have problems with sleep.
One of my pet peeves, and hail out there to all the folks that teams and folks that clean homes. But I know that they think that, I'm going to leave the seat up on the toilet because that way they know I cleaned it. I mean, we even have, in hotels, they have it lifted up sometimes with those bands around them. But that's one of my pet peeves is put the lid down on the commode, because the same concept, right? You don't want your energy going out the drain.
Right. And if you when you lay the Bagua map over your home, there's certain areas that it's really a challenge to have a bathroom, like the wealth corner, and that's like your money going down the drain, or romance, your romance going down the drain. So you kind of think of it metaphorically, but also health-wise, it does make a whole lot of sense to close your lid before you flush, because it's now become pretty, a lot of people realize that the bacteria in the waste goes up into the air when you flush.
Wow. I think I normally do that, but that's
right.
a good thing to raise to your level of consciousness, is to close the lid first. So from a practical standpoint, hygienic standpoint, and like we have a super flush toilets. When we bought our home, it had, it's just like, it's like a jet, So wow, how much bacteria could potentially be going up in the air if you don't close the lid. So that's a great one. We are at about 37 minutes here, and I could just talk to you for the next couple hours. You've got such great stuff, but I want to give you a minute. Let's just take a couple more minutes before we sign off. And is there anything besides the couple things that I mentioned that you'd like to share with our audiences for some easy things that they can do today to kind of bring more harmony and energy into their space through Feng Shui elements?
Okay. Well, I think the most important one is to look at your home, or look at your artwork that's around your home, and consider each piece. Like, how do you feel about each piece? I mean, it kind of is like, the Marie Kondo, like, does it spark joy? But it's true.
But it's true. Yeah.
It's really amazing how often I am working with a client and there's a piece of art that is absolutely impacting their emotional state. They don't even realize it. So I highly recommend people do that with their art, is to really make sure that the pieces that are around you make you feel good. And actually, when you walk into your home, what you see is going to set the tone for how you feel there.
Absolutely. We're all about entries in staging and design, and that's where you need to slow down the energy, capture the feeling that will encourage people to want to go further. But yeah, sometimes people don't take as much consideration maybe in what do you see when you first open up the door. And to defense on that, not me, because my garage is storage, but many people, they go in through their garages with their electric and they go in through the side door and they forget what the actual entry to their home,
Yeah.
looks and feels like.
Yeah, and it is important to use that front door. Of course, it's, whatever door is more convenient, I understand, because I have a similar situation. I'm entering through a side door.
Right.
We open the front door at least once a day for deliveries, for mail, for, walking the dog, or just getting a breath of fresh air and welcoming the energy from the neighborhood into your home.
That's a great, great tip. Yeah, that I
Yeah.
think, again, many people may not have thought about that there's any value, in letting that energy in and receiving that energy from the outside, and to be purposeful, even if you have, a logistic that you need to go in through the garage. That's a great one. That's fantastic.
I actually had a realtor who, when I did her consultation, I walked in through the side door, which usually happens, but then I purposely go out to the front door a little bit later in the consultation, and I walk in very consciously aware of what I see. And she told me that she never, ever opens the front door, and she didn't even know if she had the key for it.
Wow. Wow.
Realtor.
Well, so that was an easy fix right there. I do the same thing when I do occupied consultation. I actually walk across the street, because in real estate, people oftentimes will make decisions. They'll look online first, but then they'll make decisions on the curb appeal. And a lot of people, forget, things overgrow, plants grow up like kids, and, and half their house can be blocked. So yeah, we start on what does it look like? What is, someone driving by going to see? And then we're going to go through the front door, just as if someone was entering your home. And sometimes it's just forgotten. We get so busy, just, on doing just what works logistically, and forget about that. But the front door is like don't you have in Feng Shui have a name for it?
It's the mouth of Qi.
The mouth of Qi. Yes.
Right.
I was going to say the heart of the home. That's the kitchen. It's the mouth of the Qi.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's just imagine if you never open that door, it's like your door is getting your house is getting no nourishment. It then will be kind of stagnant. And nourishment translates to opportunities.
Absolutely. Because nourishment is growth and new beginnings, and, all of that stuff. So I'm going to wrap up here with tomorrow is spring. I'm so excited. And Maureen and I were just chuckling. We both kind of staged our spaces here. With my Cat's Eye and Decor custom biophilic. She's got her whole, swirl blue matched with her jewelry and all of that. And we can stage your life. We can stage our homes. We can make our homes more Feng Shui friendly, which really means harmony and creating a sacred space, no matter if we live in a one-room apartment or a mansion. And we're going to feel better because of it. We're going to raise our vibration like we're doing today. And one thing you can't see here, it's so funny because my husband buys me, store-bought flowers, once a week. And he had bought some from Walmart that lasted I want to say 2 weeks. So I was so excited. I was out at Walmart and I picked up not one, but 2 bundles. They were marked down. And of course he shows up with a bundle. So we have 3 bundles of flowers to bring in spring. But go pick flowers in your yard, even beautiful stems, and put them in a vase, and help welcome in the spring, and increase your vibration. And I think it's a good Feng Shui thing. Would you agree, Maureen?
Absolutely. It's one of the things I recommend to people is have plants in your home, live, healthy plants. And if they say they can't do that, then I say get fresh flowers every week.
Yes. Yes, and another alternative is preserved, which is why we're doing the biophilic, the preserved biophilic.
Yes, I love the preserved. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm really going to listen to that. I think I told you I lost, or at least hopefully not permanently, but my giant bird of paradise. And it made me think, really, in reading your book as well, and bringing in, because it exudes good stuff from, the liveness of it, that I might replace my faux bird of paradise in my living room with a real one and see if I can keep it alive.
Can I just say one quote that I forgot?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's a sentence here. Our emotional freedom, our spirit, is nurtured and supported by those environments which are themselves alive. And that's Christopher Alexander.
Christopher Alexander. Well, I'm going to go back and watch this episode.
An architect.
Take a note, but that's profound. Yeah. And that is just profound. And it wraps up everything of all of those elements that are alive, and that if we can integrate, in any sense, the littlest or the largest, that we're going to be more alive as well. Thank you so much, Maureen. You've been amazing. I could talk to you for hours. We've got to have you back. Maybe once you write your second book. If you haven't purchased her, I'm going to give you another plug here because I'm enjoying it so much. Creating Luminous Spaces. You can get it on Amazon. I'm more than halfway through. I'm excited to finish it this weekend. Just loving it. Good information. I've read a lot of different stuff on Feng Shui, and it's just amazing. There's no one like Maureen. There's no one like you out there, and she's just has a different take and elaborates in different ways that I think you will love. Tune in next week because we've got another guest who's going to talk about are your cleaning materials in your home making you sick? And if you don't know they are, and you're using store-bought, they probably are. So tune in next week. We're going to have Lori Gaza, who is an expert on that topic, and you don't want to miss that. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful weekend. Spring into spring. Do something for yourself. Buy yourself a flower. Buy someone else a flower. And as always, stay positive, stay hopeful, and stay connected. And thank you so much for connecting with Maureen and myself today. Please share, like, so we can continue to have fabulous guests. And this will be on YouTube in a couple of days. You can watch all past episodes on YouTube. Tada by Kat. That's not with an H. TADABYKAT. And have a great weekend. Thanks so much, Maureen.
Thank you.
All righty. Talk to you soon.